few days ago, we posted a story about Slipknot frontman Corey Taylor joking. It's important to underscore that he was definitely joking about this, that Imagine Dragons had become the new Nickelback, and he was merely expressing that he was not a fan of the band. Everybody is allowed to have their own personal choices, and just because you're not a fan of something doesn't mean that you're bullying or shaming someone. People are allowed to have an opinion, good, bad, or indifferent. That'll be important here in a moment, but in this joking conversation with Steve Jones for his radio show, Jonesy's Jukebox, Corey Taylor said that Nickelback was passing off the baton to Imagine Dragons right now, and I love it. He says they're awful, so that's cool. And he added, and they're from Vegas, so I'm gonna go home to protest. Can't show my face in this town now. Yeah, people are slowly coming back to appreciate Nickelback and then just turn their irksome ire towards Imagine Dragons. Corey also added, be prepared for this to turn into 20 clickbait news stories though, by the way. So while Corey isn't necessarily a fan of news sites that pick up basically everything he says, that's a fair assessment by him. He's definitely right about that. It is important to point out that people really care what he has to say. They really, really do. So from a business perspective, unfortunately, that's just the way things go sometimes. When you're in one of the biggest bands of all time, people listen to what you have to say, and that probably does suck for him, to be honest. But anyways, the frontman of Imagine Dragons has posted a statement on his Twitter account in response to some of the negativity aimed at his band, and he specifically named Slipknot in that statement and various other bands. Now, before we read this, he tends to sort of make this out as if he is being bullied, but I gotta defend Corey here. Corey in that interview was clearly joking. There's nothing wrong with sharing your distaste for a band. Lord knows Corey has had that tenfold over the years with people who feel like they don't like Slipknot or don't like him personally for whatever reason. For God's sakes, it's a meme. What does Corey Taylor think? But here's Dan Reynolds saying, for a decade now, I've dealt with critics and other bands saying extremely harsh things about my band. Not what I would call, quote, fair criticism, which I always try to my best to receive and learn from, but actual clickbait horseshit. Words filled with vile and hate meant to feed humanity's need to laugh at each other's imperfections and fails. I've stood silently and taken it for years. It has added to the depression I've dealt with since youth. I don't say this in search of sympathy, but just as a fact. It's not the person that causes me feelings of stress and depression, but what it does to the world we as a band have created, how it could possibly make a kid not cool listening to Imagine Dragons. I hate that thought, wondering if my kids will be made fun of as they grow older because someone thinks my band isn't cool. I've gotten over the fact that guys in other bands, the 1975, Foster the People, Smashing Pumpkins, Slipknot, etc., feel the need to talk badly about my band for whatever reason. I don't feel anger towards them, actually, just more of a sadness that industry embraces, even celebrates this mentality. I wish it felt like a place where artists stood by each other and supported one another, regardless of our different tastes and voices. My bandmates are some of my best friends. We are authentically ourselves and strive to bring positivity and empowerment to the world. We'll continue to do just that. So he brings up a few interesting points, but one of the things that he seems to allude to is that he feels that all bands and all artists should specifically support each other, and essentially what that would have to entail is that no artists have opinions, but unfortunately, opinions are what make all of us different. You can't expect different musicians or different people in general not to comment on things that they feel passionate about. And sometimes that includes sharing a negative opinion on occasion. Clearly, Corey Taylor isn't a fan of Imagine Dragons, but that is not the same thing as wishing ill will on someone like the frontman of Imagine Dragons. Those are two different things. Dan Reynolds has shared his own battle with depression. I deal with depression too. I take medication and see a therapist each and every week, so I definitely understand where he's coming from. He brings up his kids possibly being bullied because he's in a certain band, and anybody who goes after someone's kids because they are in a band is an absolute garbage human being, and nobody who has criticized his band is calling for that, so we'll just leave it at that. But nobody who dislikes the music put forth by Imagine Dragons or feels strongly that that's not where rock music should be going as a genre, or doesn't like the band's music for whatever reason, is not tantamount to a personal attack on any member of the band. That's important to note. Dan Reynolds is a good guy. He does a lot of outreach. He brings a lot of positivity in the world, so it is unfortunate that his band faces criticism. That really does suck. But the answer is not everyone just saying positive things about each other and basically overshadowing their own personal feelings. That's not healthy either. Imagine Dragons has millions of fans around the world who love what they do and support them, and maybe focusing on the positive instead of a few people who are commenting and saying they don't like that band is a much more productive use of time. Anyways, we'll keep an eye on this and all hard rock and heavy metal news. You can subscribe to Rock Feed with notifications on and check out these recommended videos. Thanks as always for joining us, and we will see you all very soon.